What's up, everybody? Blessed be. My name is Manon, and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. This video offers my personal views on the topic at hand. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, all linked down in the description below. The full script of this video and most of the others is available on my Patreon account for download if desired, to build your Witch in the Working Book of Shadows. Do you need help with a spell or fancy a tarot reading? Shoot on over to my store, Bewitching and Bizarre, with choices listed down in the description below for your personalized working and or reading. You know, when most people picture witchcraft, they imagine moonlit rituals, incense swirling in the air, and a group of smiling witches harmoniously chanting under the stars. Hey, there is a lot of that beauty in the craft, but like any community made up of real people, it's not all sparkles and fairy dust. Behind the scenes, there are moments of ego, misunderstandings, and even a little drama that can make the magical world feel less than, well, magical. That doesn't mean witchcraft is bad or broken, it just means we've got to look at the whole picture, light and shadow, if we really want to grow on this path. In this series, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about the parts of the witchcraft community that don't always make it to Instagram. We'll dig into the things like power struggles, misinformation, and ethical questions, while also exploring how to avoid the pitfalls and keep your practice healthy and authentic. Think of it as a friendly chat over a cup of tea. No judgment, no gatekeeping, just honest conversation about what it really means to walk the witch's road with your eyes wide open. Because when you can understand the shadows, you'll appreciate the light even more. So, let's get into it and get going. Roll intro. Welcome back, everybody. So, when most folks first stumble into the world of witchcraft, it feels like stepping into a fantasy novel. You picture warm circles of witches under the moonlight, everyone holding hands, chanting in harmony, and genuinely wishing the best for one another. It's a beautiful image, and honestly, parts of that dream do exist. But like any community, whether it's sports fans, church groups, or gaming guilds, the witchcraft world has its shadows. It's not all moonbeams and good vibes, and that's okay. Facing the real side of the community doesn't make it less magical. It makes you better prepared to walk your path with wisdom. The first big wake-up call for a lot of new witches is realizing that even a spiritual path doesn't magically erase human flaws. People bring their personalities, egos, and life baggage into their practice, just like they do everywhere else. Sometimes you'll run into someone who insists their way is the only real witchcraft. Maybe they tell you your deity work is wrong or your spell work isn't valid because you didn't learn it from the right tradition. This gatekeeping attitude can leave newcomers feeling unwelcome or insecure. But here's the truth. Witchcraft has never been a one-size-fits-all. I say that all the time. It's a living, breathing path that has shifted, evolved, and adapted across cultures and centuries. The moment someone tells you there's only one correct way is the moment you know they've missed the bigger picture. Another reality check. Drama exists. Witchcraft communities, both online and offline, can sometimes look like a soap opera with candles. Personality clashes, disagreements over ethics, and debates about history can all spark attention. While those discussions can be healthy when done with mutual respect, they can also turn toxic if egos get involved. It helps to remember that magic doesn't automatically make people wise or kind. It's just a tool. How it's used depends on the practitioners. Being aware of that helps you stay grounded and avoid getting pulled into unnecessary conflict. There's also the problem of misinformation. The internet is a double-edged thami, so to speak. On one hand, it has opened the door for so many people to learn about witchcraft who might never have had access otherwise. On the other hand, anyone can post a spell, ritual, or fact about witchcraft, whether they've practiced for 2 days or 20 years. That means you'll come across TikToks claiming that you can, for instance, manifest a soulmate overnight with one candle, or posts declaring historical facts that have no actual evidence behind them. It doesn't mean you should shut yourself off from online learning, but it does mean you need to sharpen your discernment. Cross-check information, read from multiple sources, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Critical thinking is just as magical as any spell you'll ever cast. And let's talk about expectations versus reality. Sometimes new witches imagine joining a coven or online group will feel like finally coming home For some it does, and that's wonderful, but others discover their first group isn't the supportive haven that they hoped for. Maybe there's subtle competition, favoritism, or just a mismatch in personalities. That doesn't mean you're a bad witch or the community is doomed. It just means you have to find the right fit. Like any relationship, it takes time to discover where you truly belong. So how do you handle these shadowy aspects without getting all disillusioned? Start by remembering why you began this journey in the first place. Your connection to magic, spirit, and nature doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. If someone tries to shame you, dictate your path, or drag you into drama, you have every right to step back. Build your practice on your own terms and seek out people who encourage curiosity and growth rather than control. At the end of the day, the witchcraft community is just that, a community. It's made of humans, not mythical beings who have transcended all flaws. There'll be kindness and cruelty, wisdom and ignorance, just like in any other corner of life. But the shadows don't erase the light. When you go in with open eyes, you can appreciate the beauty of the craft while staying safe from the pitfalls. The moon is most enchanting when you can see its dark side too. And that, my friends, is where the real magic begins. When most people picture a leader in the witchcraft world, they imagine a wise elder patiently guiding others, sharing hard-earned knowledge, and helping folks grow into their power. And yes, there are plenty of leaders like that out there. But just like in any other community, some leaders lose their way. Power can be intoxicating. Ego can creep in. And sometimes the person who's supposed to help others rise ends up trying to keep them under their thumb. The tricky thing about unhealthy leadership is that it rarely shows up as obvious villain behavior. It usually starts subtle. Maybe a coven leader implies their way is the only way to practice, or an online teacher insists that you have to buy their products to be a real witch. At first, it might sound like they're just being confident or passionate, but over time, those small statements can turn into full-blown control tactics. One of the biggest red flags is when a leader discourages questions. Healthy mentors want you to ask why. They'll encourage curiosity and even admit when they don't have all the answers. A toxic leader, on the other hand, may shut down questions or make you feel foolish for asking them. That's not wisdom, that's ego talking. If someone's goal is to keep you confused and dependent on them, that's a problem. Another sign things are off is when loyalty becomes more important than learning. It's one thing to feel connected to your group, it's another to be told you'll be punished or cast out for stepping outside their rules. I actually know a coven in Florida, and it was in South Florida and then moved to Orlando area, who actually did that. The leaders literally said that it was more about loyalty to them than it was about the practice. Some manipulative leaders thrive on creating an us versus them mindset. They might cut you off from other teachers, tell you that outsiders are dangerous, or claim you'll lose your magic if you leave. That's not spiritual growth, that's emotional manipulation. And unfortunately, money can play into this too. But if a leader constantly pressures you to spend money, suggests you need expensive tools to be valid, or guilt trips you into financial support, it's worth questioning their motives. Spiritual guidance shouldn't feel like a sales pitch. It's also worth mentioning that not all power struggles happen in covens or formal groups. Online spaces have their own brand of toxic leadership. Influencers with large followings can start believing their own hype. They might tear down other practitioners to help keep themselves on top, or they use their platform to demand blind admiration. It's easy to get caught up in someone's charisma and forget to ask, does this person encourage me to think for myself? So how do you protect yourself from unhealthy leaders without becoming cynical about the whole community? Start by trusting your gut. If something feels off, pay attention to that feeling. Ask yourself, do I feel free to explore my path, or am I scared of making a mistake? Do I feel supported, or do I feel controlled? Those questions can help you spot the difference between genuine mentorship and manipulation. It also helps to remember that good leaders don't need to control you to feel important. They celebrate your growth, even if that means you eventually outgrow them. They're okay with you learning from multiple sources. They admit when they're wrong. They don't need worship, they just want to help. If you ever meet someone like that, hold on to them. They're gems in the community. On the flip side, if you ever find yourself in a group or under a teacher who uses fear, guilt, or shame to keep you around, you are allowed to walk away. You don't owe anyone your loyalty at the expense of your freedom. Your spiritual path belongs to you. No one else has the right to claim ownership over your soul or your practice. Leadership can be beautiful when it's rooted in humility and care, but it can also turn ugly when ego takes the wheel. Being aware of that doesn't mean you have to avoid all groups or teachers. It just means you're stepping into your power with your eyes wide open. The strongest magic you'll ever work is the ability to stand firm in your truth, even when someone else tries to steer you off course. If you've ever spent any time in online witchcraft spaces, you've probably noticed that they can feel just like a double-edged sword. On one side, the internet is incredible for building community, sharing knowledge, and connecting with people who get it. On the other side, it can be messy, emotional, and sometimes downright exhausting. Welcome to the world of witch wars and internet drama, where even magical folks can end up acting a little less than mystical. So what exactly are witch wars? It's not wands at dawn duels or cauldrons bubbling over with curses, though the way people talk online you'd think it would be. Witch wars are basically feuds between practitioners or groups over beliefs, practices, or personalities. Maybe someone claims their tradition is the only authentic one. Maybe an influencer calls out another for stealing content. Or maybe a disagreement over cultural respect explodes into a shouting match in the comments. Whatever the spark, it can quickly spread like wildfire on social media. Part of what fuels this is passion. Witchcraft is personal. People pour their hearts into their paths, and when someone challenges that, emotions flare. That's human, and there's nothing wrong with caring deeply. But when conversations turn into name-calling, public shaming, or hex threats, it stops being about growth and starts being more about ego. Ironically, that kind of energy doesn't make the community stronger, it weakens it. Another ingredient in this digital cauldron is misinformation. The internet is a huge blessing for modern witches, but it's also a breeding ground for half-truths. A beginner sees a viral post claiming that a single crystal can solve all their problems, or that there's one right way to celebrate a Sabbath, and they take it as gospel. When someone points out that it's not historically accurate, things can escalate fast. The original poster feels attacked, the critic feels unheard, and before you know it, you've got a full-blown comment war. And all this is happening where the whole world can see. It's important to remember that behind every username is a person. It's easy to forget when you're typing into the void, but empathy goes a long way. Not everyone online is intentionally spreading bad info. Sometimes they just don't know better yet. Instead of jumping to "you're wrong," try "here's another perspective." It might not always calm the storm, but it can stop you from adding lightning to the thundercloud. And let's be real, some people just like drama. The internet rewards hot takes and controversy. Feeds light up when someone posts a scathing video calling out another witch. That kind of spectacle can feel entertaining, but ask yourself, does it actually help anyone? Does it make your practice richer? Usually, no. More often, it creates a climate of fear where people hesitate to share at all, worried they'll be the next target. I've personally have seen quite a bit where that happens with people, where they have told me that they never post because they're afraid they're going to get yelled at, basically, and junk like that. So how do you navigate all this without losing your sanity? First, know when to log off. Seriously, not every battle needs your attention. If you see a heated thread, ask yourself if your input will add value or if you're just getting pulled into the whirlwind. Protect your energy. It's one of your most valuable magical tools. Second, focus on building your own practice rather than policing everyone else's. Share what you know with humility and be open to learning. None of us have the full picture, no matter how many years we've practiced. Curiosity beats combativeness every time. Finally, choose your online spaces wisely. There are plenty of supportive groups, creators, and forums that prioritize kindness over chaos. Seek those out. If a page or server feels toxic, you don't have to stay. Your spiritual path shouldn't feel like a 24/7 debate club. At the end of the day, witchcraft is about connection. Connection to nature, the divine, and each other. The internet can amplify that connection in beautiful ways, but only if we handle it mindfully. Witch wars and online drama aren't inevitable. They're just a side effect of being human in a digital age. You get to decide how much of that energy you invite into your life. The best magic you can work online: a little compassion, a little patience, and knowing when to walk away from the noise. Because while drama comes and goes, your craft and your peace of mind are worth protecting. When people first dip their toes into witchcraft, the excitement is real. You're experimenting with herbs, candles, crystals, and spells, feeling like you've tapped into something ancient and powerful. And you have. But with that power comes responsibility, as they say in the famous Spider-Man movie. Witchcraft isn't inherently dangerous, but it can turn risky when folks jump in without considering safety or ethics. This part of the video is all about recognizing where those lines are and why respecting them matters. Let's start with physical safety, because sometimes we forget that magic happens in the real world. Picture this. Someone reads a spell online that calls for burning an herb bundle with windows closed to trap the energy. Sounds fine until you realize the herb is toxic when inhaled, or you're filling your home with smoke and no ventilation. Likewise, not all crystals are safe to handle constantly. Some contain heavy metals or break down in water. Witchcraft blogs don't always mention those details, so doing a little research goes a long way. Fire safety, proper handling of herbs, and common sense precautions aren't boring. They keep your magical practice from ending with a trip to the ER. But beyond physical risks, there's the trickier issues of ethical boundaries. Magic influences energy, people, and situations, so it raises big questions about consent. Love spells are a classic example. Are you casting to attract love into your life in general? Totally fine. Casting to make a specific person fall for you, that's pushing into murky territory because you're interfering with someone else's free will. Many witches feel strongly about avoiding manipulative magic, while others argue intent matters most. The key is being honest with yourself about your motives and potential consequences. Just because you can do something doesn't always mean you should. Then there's the allure of edgy practices that promise quick power. Curses, hexes, and baneful magic exist, and there's a lot of debate about when, if ever, they're justified. Some witches see them as tools for justice, others avoid them completely. Wherever you land, it's worth considering your emotional state before diving into heavy workings like this. Acting out of pure anger or spite can backfire emotionally, even if you don't believe in literal karmic blowback. The question to ask is, will this action align with the kind of witch you want to be? Magic magnifies intent, so choose carefully. Another often overlooked concern is misinformation. We touched on this with online drama, but here it can be downright dangerous. A spell telling you to drink essential oils, hard pass. A post encouraging you to stare at the sun for solar energy, no thanks. Blindly following any source without checking its accuracy can harm you physically and spiritually. Critical thinking is one of the most protective tools in your magical toolkit. So how do you practice responsibly without living in fear of messing up? Start with curiosity and caution. Research ingredients before you use them. Learn the history behind a ritual. Be mindful about consent and cultural sensitivity. And most importantly, know that it's okay to take things slow. Witchcraft isn't a race, it's a lifelong journey. Walking the magical path with awareness doesn't make it less exciting, it makes it sustainable. When you combine respect, safety, and ethics, your practice becomes stronger and more meaningful. The most powerful witches aren't the ones with the flashiest spells. They're the ones who understand that magic has real-world effects and approach it with care. Drawing lines in your craft isn't about fear, it's about integrity. By being thoughtful with your practice, you protect yourself, respect others, and create space for authentic growth. And honestly, that's where the deepest kind of magic lives. After exploring all the pitfalls and shadows in the witchcraft community, it's easy to start feeling a little overwhelmed. You hear about toxic leaders, online drama, and sketchy practices, and you might wonder, how do I even find my place in all this? The good news is that building a healthy, fulfilling practice isn't about avoiding every misstep. It's about learning how to stay balanced and grounded no matter what's happening around you. That's where the real strength of your craft shines. The first step toward a balanced path is understanding that your practice is yours. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Some folks thrive in a coven while others are happiest working solo. Some connect deeply with deity work while others focus on nature or ancestor veneration. There's no single right way, and that freedom is one of witchcraft's greatest gifts. A healthy practice starts with self-awareness, asking what resonates with you and what doesn't, instead of trying to copy what's trending online. Community can still be a wonderful part of your journey though, if you choose wisely. Look for groups, online or offline, that celebrate curiosity rather than demand conformity. A supportive circle will encourage questions, respect your boundaries, and cheer for your growth. If a space makes you feel small or pressured, it's okay to step back. Remember, belonging doesn't come from forcing yourself into a group. It comes from finding people who appreciate you as you are. And if you can't find that group, build your own. Start small. Even 1 or 2 like-minded friends can create a nourishing magical support system. A balanced practice also means pacing yourself. It's tempting to dive headfirst into every topic: tarot, herbs, moon phases, crystals, divination, doing it all at once. But you don't need to master everything overnight. Let your path unfold naturally. Follow your curiosity one step at a time, and don't be afraid to revisit or refine your practice as you grow. Magic is a lifelong journey, not a checklist to complete. Another important part of a healthy path is setting clear boundaries, both with yourself and others. Boundaries protect your energy and keep your craft sustainable. Maybe that means carving out quiet time for your spiritual work without distractions. Maybe it's saying no when someone asks you to cast a spell you're not comfortable with. It might even mean unfollowing online creators whose content stirs up comparison or self-doubt. Boundaries aren't walls. They're like fences in a garden, helping your magic flourish without being trampled. Education plays a big role here too. The more you learn, the more confident and steady you feel in your practice. Read widely, listen to different perspectives, and be willing to adjust when you discover new information. Healthy witches don't have all the answers. They just stay open to growth, and don't underestimate the value of mundane knowledge alongside magical wisdom. Understanding science, history, and culture can make your spiritual work more meaningful and informed. Finally, balance means taking care of your whole self. Magic is powerful, but it doesn't replace basic human needs. Rest, nourishment, and emotional well-being are the foundation for everything else. It's hard to connect with the divine or cast a spell if you are burned out or ignoring your mental health. Tending to your body and spirit is part of the craft. It's not separate from it. Walking the balanced path doesn't mean life will be free of challenges. There will still be disagreements, mistakes, and learning curves. But when you've built your practice on self-awareness, respect, and compassion, you'll have the tools to navigate anything. Healthy witchcraft isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic and intentional. In the end, your craft should empower you, not drain you. It should connect you to wonder, mystery, and meaning in a way that feels genuine. If you keep that in mind, you'll create a practice that nourishes you for years to come. Maybe even inspire others to find their own balanced path. And honestly, that's some of the most transformative magic there is. As we've explored, the witchcraft community, like any gathering of humans, has its shadows. We've talked about the messy parts: ego-driven leaders, online spats, risky practices, and the tricky ethics that can trip people up. But here's the key takeaway: none of those challenges erase the beauty or power of the path. If anything, seeing the whole picture helps you approach your craft with more wisdom and self-trust. When you know the red flags and understand where things can go sideways, you're better equipped to create something meaningful and lasting for yourself. Magic isn't just in the tools or the rituals, it's in the way you show up for yourself and others. A healthy practice is one that feeds your spirit, respects the people around you, and keeps you curious rather than fearful. If you can walk your path with compassion, boundaries, and an open heart, you'll not only avoid a lot of unnecessary drama, you'll also help make the community stronger for everyone else. So keep learning, keep questioning, and above all, keep your craft authentic. That's where the real enchantment lives, right in the balance between shadow and light. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Witch into Working. Have you ever run into a bad situation in the craft? Let us all know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to ring that little bell to be reminded of wonderful and exciting future episodes to come. Love you guys and gals. Blessed be.